Hello, everybody. I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to our sponsor, Dr. Bradley Nelson, New York Times best-selling author of The Emotional Code and The Body Code. Dr. Nelson's work is transforming lives worldwide, and we're grateful for his support on our show today for this episode. Now, today, on The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, we're thrilled to welcome Trevor Blake. He is the entrepreneur, multi-time founder and author of Work Blends Practical Strategy with Science-Backed Mindset to help people build their business and the lives they love. And Trevor, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Could you tell everybody a little about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, we're glad to. Thank you, Stacey. I'm looking forward to this chat. I'm English, as you can probably tell by the voice. I live in a couple of places in America now, up in Washington and down in Southern California. I have, like most people, have what I would call a smorgasbord of career experiences. I haven't met many people who've started off in one thing and stayed in it their whole lives. It happens, but rarely these days. Uh,
Right.
so, so I've been in the Royal Navy as an officer in the Royal Navy. I've been worked in a hospital for a decade. I've worked with cancer patients most of my life. I became an entrepreneur in 2003. It was my first time, and I've done that 7 times now. I found a system and a program that works very nicely for me because I'm a kind of a laid back guy. I don't like to be working all the hours that God sends. So I found a system that works whereby I can mix what I call a balanced life with a successful, as we define success, entrepreneurial life. And then when I felt like I'd achieved some of that, I wanted to share how I achieved it. So that's when I became a writer. So that's my first book, Three Simple Steps, then Secrets to a Successful Startup. And then that's all wrapped in a course which is about how to, using a scientific process rather than a feel-good ideology process, how to remember the journey back to who you really are.
I like that. Now, what if someone feels stuck? What is the first small action you recommend to create a momentum today?
Well, it's probably a two-parter, to be honest, Stacey. So the first thing is stop beating yourself up about it. We all get stuck all the time.
Yes.
Everybody, including me, I probably get stuck more than anybody, which is how I developed all these tools and techniques. And
Hmm.
so don't beat yourself up. It's okay. It's no one's fault. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is to try and analyze, okay, because I have a scientific background, so I like to analyze stuff. Like, how and why did I get stuck? And then we look and we think, okay, I can see how I got stuck because of maybe how I was talking to myself, maybe the stuff I was letting into my sensory system. Like I've become obsessed with that news headlines, or I'm listening to gossip or complainers and all that kind of stuff. And so I call it mentality control. So we go back to remembering what it felt like to be free of all of that when we were 5 years old. And somebody would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And we go, "I'm gonna be a ninja." And we believe. So I try. We get back to that kind of sense of excitement and awe, and then that gives us the power to pause a little bit. And I'm English, so I talk fast, so I have to tell myself pause. And so I pause a little bit, and I'll say, I just had a thought that's not in my best interests, so I'm going to react to that. So I do not believe in positive thinking. I think scientifically it's not possible because our thoughts take what seems like a fast amount of time, 500 milliseconds to form, but in the sense of the microscopic, that's a long time to form. So we're feeling beings, we feel something, then we think. And oftentimes the way we think hurts us a little bit. Like if I was to get my credit card statement, a couple of decades ago, my stomach would turn over. I'd feel, what did I do? And why did I do that? And how am I going to get out? And that felt like stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I decided to reframe those thoughts and those feelings. Said, okay, I'll react differently. So yeah, I felt like that for a moment, but now I'm going to imagine myself going to the local liquor store. I was in England at the time. So going to the local liquor store and buying the most expensive bottle of champagne with my own cash and celebrating with my friends for being quote unquote debt free. And that had such a powerful effect on me that I actually achieved that because I was at the point where I had 20 English pounds in my bank account, like nothing.
Yeah.
And I went in to withdraw 50 and they laughed at me. And it was the most embarrassing moment of my life from a financial perspective. And so I decided that's never happening again. I'm going to figure this out. And that's kind of what I do. So whenever we feel stuck, we just remember what it's like to be unstuck, like a 5-year-old. And then we say, okay, what happened in between time? And we can pretty much pick the same events, the way we were taught at school, our parents' beliefs and disbeliefs, the media and how that's changed, and the propaganda that comes with all of that makes us think in a certain way. And then we
Yeah.
say, okay, all right, I can't change it all and I can't stop it all, but maybe I can change a few things. And that's that. It's that simple. That's basically so. Eventually, I wrote the book Three Simple Steps based on that, about how to control mentality, how to uh, achieve greater respect for your intuition, and then how to target that at what you really want for you, not what the world says you're supposed to be. And it's a lot of fun doing it that way.
I like that. When we focus on our intuition and we focus on what we need to do for ourselves, life turns around completely, because I always believe that our intuition really guides us, but a lot of times people ignore their intuition. They ignore the messages that our mind, our body, our heart, our gut, is trying to share with us. But when you take time to really listen and observe, it really could guide you in a very good and beneficial direction.
And I think it's more relevant today than it has been in decades for us because most of us come from a world, especially in the entrepreneur world, we come from a place of analyzing. And
Yeah,
that can get you so far. I am so people might say, well, who's this guy to talk about intuition? How do you know so much about intuition? I don't. I was just blessed to be
yeah.
surrounded by women that had amazing intuition. And,
Mhm.
and I was greedy enough to, I think I want some of that. How do
Yeah,
you? I don't understand. My late wife had this incredible way of knowing, I call it. So
yeah,
she would say, "How's it going?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm about to do a deal with such and such," and she'd say, "No, it's a bad idea." I say, "How do you know? You've never met the guy. I worked with him once. I know him. I trust him." She said, "No, bad idea." And the two times in my life I didn't listen to her on those things, it cost me a lot of money and a lot of stress. And so
yeah,
I said, I want that. And as a scientist, I started to figure out what it is and how you get it. And that's part of everything we have at trevorgblake.com is a way to deepen that trust with your intuition. Because I find a lot of people are really intuitive, but they don't quite trust it yet. And
yeah,
I used to be that guy. And so now I can tell you now, I don't follow any decision I make unless it just comes in a snap moment like that, even though
mhm,
it seems crazy at the time, and
yeah,
even though there may be 100 people saying you're mad, don't do it. If it feels right and I go with it, it's always turned out well.
right. I agree that I feel the same way. Now, you teach a science-backed approach to mindset. What makes it effective when typical motivational talk fades?
So yeah, I've probably read every self-help book there is to read because it does help. But what I realized one day is that it makes you feel better about the life you have, and
Mhm.
that's not enough. It wasn't enough for me because I grew up poor, and my father was unemployed my whole life. My mother was given a 6 months to live prognosis for breast cancer. And when you start that way, and I didn't know we were poor till much later on, and I look back because I thought life was great. I was having the time of my life as a
Yeah.
kid. Um, but the world provides a trajectory for you in that way, and it says, okay, this is what's for you. And it didn't really dawn on me until I was about 15, and it was time, and the school had decided that because of my background, I couldn't continue because I'm never
Mhm.
going to be able to afford university in those days. And I wanted to be something and do something, and I wanted adventure. So they offered me an application form for an apprentice chicken packing manager. That's how they. Okay, I didn't even know there was such a thing in the world, but that's what they offered me. And I said, no, I want to travel. I'm going to be an officer in the Royal Navy. And they laughed. Everybody laughed. My whole school laughed. The colleagues laughed. The teachers laughed. Everyone laughed at me,
Really?
except my mum. And my mum said, if that's what you want, we'll go and get an application form and we'll get started. And we went to the recruiting office in the local big town, and they laughed at me. This guy in amazing uniform with metal across his chest just said, people like you don't do that. It's not possible. And then my mum lasered him with her expression, and that was it. So we go in a different direction. And finally I realized that if it feels right, you can make it happen.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. Now, walk us through your daily mental routine. Like, what are the non-negotiables that compound results?
So I'm very careful, and I've got more careful as the years go by, Stacey, to manage what I put in my energy field. Let's just call it that.
Okay.
And so I don't watch news headlines. I don't listen to talk show radio first thing in the morning. I'm very careful who I have in my life. Don't really hang out with people who aren't going to be part of the way, you know, they're not. If I don't surround myself with people who don't inspire me. Everyone
Yes.
who's in my life inspires me, and I hopefully have some effect on their lives.
Mm.
Uh, so when I get up in the morning, no electronics, none whatsoever, till 9 o'clock, and sometimes I'm up at 4:30. First thing I do, and I feel comfortable saying this now, but there was a time a few decades ago where this would kind of label you as a bit woo-woo. But the first thing I do is meditate every single day. And I can't imagine my days without it. And during my life, when I've, for whatever reason, getting an early flight or something, I haven't meditated first thing in the morning. Everybody else notices the difference in me. And I started to realize that this is a very powerful and very simple and accessible to everybody. I call it taking quiet time. You just sit down for 20 minutes by yourself before the world gets crazy.
Yeah.
And not for any purpose. I don't put on a purple caftan and sit on a pointy rock or anything like that. I just sit in a chair. And all my best ideas come during that 20 minutes or shortly afterwards. And
Mhm.
I know I wouldn't have those ideas if I hadn't have taken the time out. So taking that time out is very important to me, and it could last, 20 minutes to sometimes three-quarters of an hour. And then for the rest of that morning, it's dedicated to my relationship. So
Mhm.
I was married for 38 years, and I would never cut that short in any way, shape, or form by rushing to my cell phone or putting the TV on or anything like that. That was priceless time for me, like a dedicated time for breakfast. And that could last anything from an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it included walking the dogs and going out in nature and stuff like that. I'm very blessed now to have my wife Jess, who I met 2 years after my late wife, and she's the same. And she naturally, because she previously was on the transformation experience, she naturally takes quiet time first thing in the morning. And we
Mhm.
take it separately to separate wings of the house, just because being on your own is kind of cool sometimes. We don't often, when we look back at our day, there's very rarely a time when we're on our own. But
Yeah.
so that's pretty much it. And before you know it, it's 9 o'clock, and then that's when I enter the world, I guess, the real world. And then I'll
Yeah.
answer, you do emails and stuff, and what fun things like this. So that's kind of my morning routine, but it's unbreakable. Uh, so as people find out when they try to book me using my calendar, until 9 o'clock, it's all booked out.
Right. I think that's great. I think, how we start the day is so important. That really sets the tone of how the rest of the day will be. It's how we begin the day. And I don't know if people realize how important when we wake up, those first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, half an hour, however long you need, those can set the day and the tone of your entire day. So if you listen to something motivational, if you meditate, whatever you do to put yourself in that right frame of mind will have such an impact on the rest of the day.
I totally agree. It's on the occasions where I mess up, and I do on a regular basis, and I don't do it that way, my day just goes to just breaks down somehow. It sort of unravels.
Yeah.
When I do that every single day, I always, I really like life. Well, actually, I was just before you and I went live, I was just down below here, and the lady behind the counter said, "You and Jess, you're always so happy." And I said, "Well, how can you not be? It's beautiful, sunshine, and it's a gorgeous day here. We live in this amazing place. We're very blessed." But then I was thinking, do you know what? We set ourselves up that way.
Yeah.
If I got up and I put the TV headlines on, and all I saw was terrible news around the world, it's hard to get out of that.
Yes.
It's hard to then get to that level we would get if you don't do that.
Exactly, exactly. I don't even listen to the news that much anymore because of that reason. It just puts you in a terrible mind frame because that's all you hear. You hear more negative because people kind of gravitate to negative. They like hearing negative for whatever reason. It attracts people more than hearing a bunch of positive things. But wouldn't it be nice if you could turn the TV on, you could listen to the news, and it was all positive stuff that's going on around the world instead of all the negatives.
I kind of just did that. We went traveling. We've been traveling for a year. We just got back actually. almost to the day. And in a 6 month period of that travel, we went to 30 odd different countries and crazy time zones whereby I couldn't even remember what my name was, let alone where I was. But you know what? No one was talking about the news. No one talked about the weather. No one was gloomy. And everyone we met all over the world threw their arms out and welcomed us. Said, "Come on in, come have some food." And I realized that it kind of restored my faith in humanity to an extent. I realized that 99.99% of the people are just really cool people, really nice people. And the minorities are the ones that we have to watch on TV if we're unfortunate enough to have that thing on in the background.
Yeah, so true, so true. Now, how do you eliminate noise and decision fatigue so creatively and return back to clarity and you can focus?
Well, I have to confess, I stole these tools from other people over time. When I grew up, I read dozens and dozens of biographies of people, and I noticed that they all had the same kind of technique, even though in their time or situation they might have had different labels for it. And one of the ones was to deliberately protect themselves in kind of a bubble.
Mhm.
And the most modern version of that I call the bell jar effect. So you basically, Jack Black was, I think, the man who should be credited with this idea. And he developed it for a golfer, Seve Ballesteros, who eventually became a huge success and won some majors, but was struggling for a long period of time because the crowd loved the guy who was already the major winner, the Jack Nicklaus. And so he let that in and it affected him and he would come second and third, but he could never make it. And he'd blow it right at the end. And so this Jack Black worked with him and said, just imagine a bell jar coming down from the sky and you say bell jar on, and you imagine all of the hostility from the crowd bouncing off this bulletproof glass and turning to dust. And I was at the time being bullied and being, the bullying was all kinds of different things, but name calling seemed to hurt me more than the physical bullying. And I just tried it. I started using it. And then I realized, because I read it in a book, and then all of a sudden something happened. I didn't have to do anything because my tormentors were not getting the response they were looking for, which was me
Yeah.
getting angry, basically, me fighting, because I was gingerhead in those days, a bit, all feisty. And
Mhm.
because they weren't getting that response, they just gave up and went elsewhere. And it
Yeah.
can read me up. And I've kept that tool and technique. I've obviously, finessed it a bit over the years because it's a really good one to use in the boardroom. It's very
Yeah.
good to use with relatives you don't particularly like. We all have those, so when you use that technique, and you can get it's described mostly in the book Three Simple Steps. So if you can get it for free on trevorgblake.com. I've got like a free part of Three Simple Steps, which people love. It's got my mum's story in there, and then it's got some of these techniques for helping with mentality control. So because it's free, you can take it and you can use it tomorrow. You can just practice, and if we never ever connect again, it's life changing. Just doing that is life changing because you start to feel like that 5-year-old again, like I'm immortal,
Yeah.
no one got me.
I love that. Now, if someone only had about 20 minutes a day to change their trajectory, how should they use it and why?
Without a doubt, going back to the previous question, I think meditation is the key to everything.
I agree.
And I can, in the transformation experience, I offer the scientific reasons for that. So it's not just a feel good, like, oh yeah, it's cool to stare at a candle or something. It's the scientific reasons of what it does to your brain, how it rewires your brain, how it creates all these new neurons. So not to get too sciencey, but in the back of our brains, in the brainstem, which only humans and reptiles have. No other creatures have this piece. There's a group of neurons. They go by the name reticular activation system, which, if you say it quickly, is RAS. So people laugh when I say you got to control your RAS, right? Your RAS is on the back of your neck, not down here. And so people laugh about that. And it helps them remember it. And so what this does is it keeps us in a loop. And a lot of people don't know this, and it's a bit of a trick. It's a bit of a hack. Uh, it's the same as a Google algorithm that when we go online and we search, the next day we get commercials for the same thing we were searching for yesterday
Yeah.
because it pays attention to what you pay attention to. Well, here, this pays attention to what I pay attention to. So if I'm watching news headlines, I get more reason to watch news headlines. If I get fear of something, I get more reason to be equally fearful or more. But also if I control what I put here, so if I say I'm going to look at the supercar that I'm going to buy one day, and I'll watch that advert, and I'll go on the magazine, and I'll go online, and one day I'll go and test drive it, and we put that in our reticular activation system. It has no emotion, so
Right.
it doesn't judge what's good or bad for us. It just gives us what we're paying attention to. And so when people realize that, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. So if for 20 minutes a day you just sat somewhere and you just said, I'm going to read like luxury travel magazine, I'm going to read the luxury cruise line or something like that. Just something that you wouldn't normally do because normally you put the TV on and you think the world's a terrible place. So you put this in here, you basically reprogram or recode this
Yeah.
group. It changes everything, Stacey. It changes absolutely everything. And it's not hard to do. Everyone can do it. It doesn't cost any money.
Right.
Uh, it just we have to remind ourselves once a day is a good thing to it's, you said what to do for 20 minutes. That's probably the best way to spend 20 minutes other than meditation is to just spend 20 minutes putting into your RAS what it
Mhm.
is you want for you, not what that thinks you want for you.
Right. Oh, I love that. Now, what helps you decide to pursue and which part is to park for later? So, how do you decide what you should do right now versus what you should do later?
Uh, so those who know us smile and laugh at us, Jess and I, because they say you never have a plan. So we don't plan. We wake up in the morning, we have no idea what the day is going to be. We have no idea even what we're doing for lunch or for dinner or anything like that. And so we
Hmm.
go in the moment. So for me, one of the most beautiful things about a balanced life, and every time I look at the screen, I can see you've got the word balance behind you, and I love that. Uh,
Hmm.
the balanced life is to go with the flow at the moment because
Right.
that's where I find the magic is. And
Yeah.
when I forget that and I stop doing that and I try to figure stuff out, I usually turn in a different direction. And again, then it doesn't go, it gets bumpy.
Hmm.
Um, so we're definitely, and I think one of the things that helps us is as a scientific mind, I understand that everything's energy and that energy has to flow. If you stop it, or it stagnates.
Yeah.
So by living in a sense of, and it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's not really like that because supposed to be exciting. It's so
Yeah.
much more exciting when we don't know what the day is going to bring. It's
Yeah.
magical. And so we try to flow, and the more we flow, the more adventure and fun we seem to attract to us, I guess.
Yeah. That is very true. I kind of like to do things on the cusp also. Find it much more fun where my husband is a type A and he likes to plan everything out, but then he gets stressed when it doesn't actually go exactly how he planned it. So I kind of find that my way works a little bit better. But then we never missed an airplane ride or anything like that because everything is structured.
But then you do have to deal with that. But how? But why? And that makes me laugh when I hear that all the time. Yes, but how? Because I remember as a kid, I used to ask that of my parents. Yes, but how? Why? 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 And they would say, because I say so. So
Mhm.
you'll say that to your husband, because I say so.
I think I'm going to. I like that. I like that a lot. Now, early traction, your playbook for getting the first 10 to 50 customers without a big budget or a team. Can you tell us a little about that? Because a lot of people, want to be able to accomplish that. They don't know how because they have a small budget. They have, they're working. A lot of them are just working by themselves because they can't figure out they need more help, but they can't figure out how to get more than themselves at the moment. How do you suggest, is the route they should take?
Yeah, I've never had an employee, not one, since I started my own company. And a couple of reasons for that was the experience I had working in corporate America. I had a good career, but only because I could BS in the boardroom like everybody, but as good as anybody.
Yeah.
And having an English accent, people probably paid more attention to what I said than other people, so I got away with blue murder basically. But when I look back at my career, probably 75% of my time was spent talking about how to keep employees happy. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it takes your attention away from keeping customers happy. And for me, if you don't have happy customers, you don't have a business. And
Right.
to be honest, being happy isn't enough anymore. They have to be
Yeah.
so delighted that they tell everybody else because they hold the power now.
Yeah.
They have the review, right? So let's say someone's watching this and they think, oh, that guy's full of BS. Well, that damages, the customer Trevor Blake relationship significantly to the point where I'm going to have to adjust Trevor Blake. I can't shout at the customer, and that's become really powerful and really important. I think to us. So when I started my first company, I needed to raise some money, and once I'd raised some money to buy the patent of the thing I wanted to develop, I didn't have a lot left.
Mhm.
I remember thinking I can figure this out. In my corporate career, whenever we got to launch a new product, we never had enough people or enough resources. So we would contract with people or companies that had those resources. And I
Yeah.
thought they did a better job, to be honest. They knew what they were doing. They didn't need training. They didn't whine. They didn't complain about, their benefits or anything like that. They just went on a contract and they got on with the job. They didn't need supervision. And I was kind of in a supervisor mentality in my career. And so I started what I call a hub model, where I worked with vendors and contractors for a period of time until the company could afford the cost efficiency of employees. At which
Right.
point, at which point I sold, because
Okay.
it's no fun for me. So
Yeah.
if you're not having fun, why do it? Is one of my mottos. And so I would typically within a 5, 6 year period, I will build a company to a certain level and sell it, but I'll build it the hub model is like a hub and spokes. I'll build it with a group of people who are experts at one particular function. So I'll hire regulatory, I'll hire sales and marketing, I'll hire distribution, manufacturing, and they all come together. And my job changes from being kind of the supervisor where I'm looking over someone's shoulder and saying, what did you do this week?
Yeah.
To to a peer-to-peer trust whereby this is what we need to achieve. I don't care if it takes you a week or if it takes you a day. I really don't care. Here's the price. And it's a very rewarding way of working, and it's also incredibly profitable. So when
Yeah.
I got away with it the first time, I started a company with a couple of $100s, raised the money for the patent, and then I sold it 6 years later. And I like this number because it makes people sit up and think. I sold
Mhm.
it for 105.5 million. I didn't get it all because I had investors and I got
Right.
diluted significantly, but it's still a pretty decent story. And it's only after that story I wrote my first book, Three Simple Steps, about how I managed to do that, controlling mentality and using my intuition.
Right.
And one of the challenges I always felt with having a bunch of employees was that they would talk me out of my intuition. They would give me 100 reasons not to believe myself.
Right.
And I found if I had the hub model, people are just saying, what direction we're going in, Trevor? And I'll go, we're going this way.
Yeah.
And it just feels it should be this way.
Yeah.
And I've had a blast. I've done it 7 times. I'm on my seventh company now, and in negotiations for the sale of my seventh company, actually. So, um, which is so much fun.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Now, off-market fit, like how do you shape promise, pricing, and proof quickly?
So for me, proof of concept is essential to get people on board.
Yeah.
So what I find a lot of, so in my coaching at trevorgblake.com, a lot of people come in having spent 2 years trying to perfect a business plan.
Yeah.
The best business advice I ever got from somebody was the man who built Amgen from 0 to 60 billion.
Mhm.
His name was George Rothman. He spent his life as a bird watcher. That was his hobby and his passion. But he managed to build this amazing biotech in the same process at the same time frame. And I was younger and naive and not really respecting the person in front of me. And I was waxing lyrical about my great idea. And he put his hand up, probably because I was giving him indigestion, but he put his hand up and he said, Trevor, you don't know what business you're in till you get in the business. And
Right.
I found that to be true in every business I've built, is that I set off in one direction and very quickly I see an opportunity I never would have seen if I hadn't started, or a problem I didn't anticipate if I'd been just sitting by my computer planning. So my advice to people who are starting is always, the secret is to start and go and engage with your customer, your potential customer immediately. Get their feedback. Let them tell you how to build the product. Let them tell you how to build this concept that you have, and then do a proof of concept. Go back to those people, show them what you built, get their review, get their opinion back, and when it's all good and it all fits, you've got something that you can take to investors. And the secret today is to grow big fast.
Yes.
There's no time anymore to grow slowly, region by region, then nationally, then internationally. It's all instant now. So to grow big fast, that you've got to prove the concept using customers. Otherwise, no investor is going to listen to you. And then when you go to potential investors, whatever they look like, angel or VC or whatever they are,
Yeah.
they they can see that, okay, there's a group of customers that want this. You've provided it to them. Of course, it can be improved. Of course, we can do better. But with our money, we'll take it to this higher level.
Right.
And that's how you get big fast. I call it spinning. So it's how you spin fast.
I love that. Now, you often connect success to focus, environment, and energy. How do how do you actually translate that into a daily practice steps?
So for me, it's wonderful to understand that everything is energy. It sounds a little new age saying it like that, but actually it's true. If you break everything down, you, Stacey, and I are made of exactly the same stuff. We're made of fermions and bosons. There's no difference between us except the configuration that makes you the beautiful you and me the gray-haired me, right? It's fermions and bosons. But also the world around us is the same way. So when we can get that basic learning, which again, for people who are interested in this, transformation experience goes through the basic learning to the intuitive part, to the setting targets, how to
Right.
bring that all together. Forget goal setting and all that nonsense, but how to do it in the right way, the factual way. And so
Yeah.
when we understand that, we realize that if we change something in the way that we interact with all this stuff,
Right.
that everything changes, not just one thing, but everything changes. So if we change the way we think about one particular thing, we end up affecting not just our material welfare or our business or our lifestyle, but our relationships and our health at the same time. Everything changes. Balance, success with balance is what I like to call it. And so for me, it's all about that. It's about understanding one's relationship with the energy of the world around us and realizing that it resonates. And so we
Yes.
have, we have some tools. My favorite is, and this is free to everybody who wants to do this. You can go and do it right now, actually, after this. I have one called the grocery store challenge where I tell people feel the energy of the grocery store, find the place in the grocery store that you think has the lowest energy, typically the deli department, because that's a miserable job for a lot of people, spending so much time slicing cheese and everyone who's
Yeah.
waiting. Everyone who's waiting for the sandwich filling is tutting and looking at the watch and complaining. So it's not much fun. And then you go up to the person who looks the most beaten down behind the counter and you use their name and you just say, "Hello, Stacey. How's your day going? How's the day?" And they're just so blown away that you actually see who they are. And they say, "Oh yes, I am Stacey." And so they sit up a little bit, they immediately lighten up, the energy is lifting, and you can feel it. It's resonant, you can feel it. And then you ask a simple question that shows respect for who they are, which is something like, I make my own sandwiches, but they taste awful. I don't know what I do wrong. What are people buying that makes the sandwiches so tasty? Something like that. Just make it up. And when someone's asked for their opinion and advice, they just light up. Again, like that 5-year-old, wow, you see me, that I have a value. And so I call that the grocery store challenge, not just to lift up someone's day, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, it's good, but so you can feel the difference in energy. And when we do that, then it changes the way, like I was saying before, when I went down to the little store down here, and she says, "You're always so happy." The energy is different.
Yeah.
So everyone can feel everyone's energy, but we have to make a little effort to get the
Yeah.
resonance happening. And so it's a free tool. It's so much fun for a number of people. It's a little intimidating the first time you do it because so many people are walking around with their rectangle and don't even notice the name of the person who's helping them.
Yeah.
So to put that aside and then to use someone's name can at first be a little intimidating, but you get used to it.
Right. No, that's very effective. I've done similar stuff and a person will lighten up. They'll just see them start to glow when you do that. And it's you made their day, really. You really have. Now, what role does visualization and selective attention play in the opportunity spotting?
So it works particularly in the setting of the target that we've talked briefly about. When one looks at all the studies of what makes some people successful and others not, even though they've all had the basic start, the basic IQ, the same IQ, etc., it always comes down to two things. One is self-confidence, which is something that we can learn and grow, right? We're not all naturally self-confident. And the other is a tendency to set really big, almost stupidly seeming targets, right? None of this goal setting, like baby steps and all that. You don't build Tesla through baby steps, okay? It's a vision. And so there's a process to getting that vision. And so in the transformation experience, for those who are more interested in that, and you can go deep in trevorgblake.com for free for a long time, and you can get the science of intentions, which is what I call this process. There's a process to it which starts with actually answering the hardest question you've ever been asked, and that is, what do you actually want for you? Because most
Yeah.
of us want something for someone else. We want our kids, our husband, our family, our friends, our business. And we've suddenly forgotten that 5-year-old who says, I want to be a ninja. We've forgotten what we want for ourselves. So there's a way to get back to thinking that way, to get that energy. And then when we get into that state, we go through a process. It's like a commitment ritual, uh, whereby we actually get to answer that question. And fully enough, today I got an email, maybe probably 30 minutes ago, from someone who sent me an email a week ago telling me what they want. And I said, no, you don't. You don't want any of this.
Yeah.
What we do is not who we are, right? So this person had set up these targets about what I do, and I say, go back, and this time, and I said in a nice way. And so she's part of my mastermind, so we know each other. And so she went back and she actually answered the question, what do I want for me, without what do I do for everybody else? And
Yeah.
it's completely changed everything. So now I got the email just a little bit before, and it was full of this energy, of this delight, this excitement, this sense of awe. Of I figured it out. I can still do these things and make an impact, but what I want for me is something very different. I want this and this and this,
Yeah.
and they're complete opposites. Whereas what I do is in the healthcare field, what this person does is in the healthcare field. What this person wants is in the artistic field.
Yeah. Wow. What a
And
difference.
Yeah, and then so finally realizing that and going back to it and then figuring out, well, okay, there's a way to get those two to work together. It's magical when that happens. We light up. I light up just thinking about it. So I mean, you know,
I love that. Now, if we had to take today's conversation and you wanted to emphasize on a couple important factors, what would be some of the things you'd like to emphasize to the listeners that you'd want them to walk away with?
for me, the number one thing is when it's never too late. We're never too old. We're never too um, ill-informed or undercapitalized to reinvent ourselves. We
Yes.
just decide to do it. Just decide to do it. And there's ways to make it happen. Lots of tools and techniques, and it's a wonderful, exciting journey. I mean, I'm at an age where most people have probably got their feet up on the coffee table and waiting for God. And I'm so excited about what's ahead for the next 30 years. I've got so many ideas, so many businesses to put together, and stuff I want to write and all these kind of things. And that comes from knowing that the secret is probably not to try and plan it out,
Yeah.
but to just do what your heart. So I call this, so most people are brain forward, so they think their lives, and some other people are heart forward, so they feel their way around. I call this the torso wand, because in science terms, the heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. And that's quite a surprise to people. The solar
Yeah.
plex, the solar plexus sends more signals to the heart and the brain than both send together to the solar plexus. So it's quite surprising to know we have this center of, I call it the torso wand, this sort of brain, heart, solar plexus, that if we play with it, if we understand its energy and we play with it, then we never grow up.
Yeah.
And then we can reinvent ourselves again, again, and again. And that's so
Hmm.
much.
That's so true. That's so true. And the brain, the heart, and the gut are all made of the same composition. So if I find that pretty amazing in itself also.
I visualize something like something out of Star Wars or something like this. It's like glowing.
Yeah.
We take it to the world, but it's us. I mean, we're magical people. We can do anything. I mean, I know a lot of people say this, but it's actually true. It truly is true in my case. If I can do some of this stuff or all of this stuff, given how I started out, then written off by school, written off by society. If I could do this, anyone can do absolutely anything and far more. Uh,
Right.
it just needs a little bit of confidence to start. And that's my second piece of advice to people is don't try and figure it out, just start.
Yes, exactly. Now tell us a little about your books and your services that you provide and also any other courses or anything like that.
It's all so thank you for asking, Stacey. It's all in one place. It's all at trevorgblake.com. We've tried to keep it really simple. My first book is called Three Simple Steps, and it focuses on getting back our mentality and the joy of who we really are, deepening our intuition so we can trust our decision making, and then how to identify what we want and set that as a target and trick time. into bringing it to the now. Because a lot of people set it as a target and it seems a way ahead of them. So we have a way of understanding the illusion of time and we can bring it into the present. And then all that kind of magic happens. So that's called Three Simple Steps. And you can get a taste for it on trevorgblake.com, see if you like it or not. It did really well, became a New York Times bestseller 3 times. My claim to fame is that the first time it was a New York Times bestseller, it was at the time when 50 Shades of Grey was the #1 book in the world, and I knocked it off #1 spot for 4 hours.
Oh, really? Oh, that's an accomplishment. Yay.
I think if I die now and I have a headstone, I want that on it. Right?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so then after that book, people ask for something more specific about business. So I have another book called Secrets to a Successful Startup, which talks about how to do that hub model we talked about earlier. And then for though I don't believe it's possible, you might disagree with me, but I'd be interested in that, Stacey. I personally have never found anybody who managed to achieve material success, which we all want. There's nothing wrong with that, without developing personally.
Hmm.
I found them to go together. If they don't go together, it becomes a hustle mentality, and that can be you can make it, but you'd be on your third marriage and I don't know, taking some kind of stimulant or suppressant, and I don't think that's a way to live. So for success with balance, I think there's a different way of doing it. So for that, I have the transformation experience, which takes about 45 days to complete because it's got to be done slowly.
Right.
An hour a day, you've got to so knowledge is energy. And so one has to let the knowledge digest. It connects in a scientific process we call quantum entanglement, which I explained. And that then allows the magic to ferment and come out. So we take some knowledge in and we sit with it for a while or go for a walk with it for a while. And then all of a sudden we seem really smart and really wise and think, how do I know all this stuff? It's quite funny when that happens with people, they say, but all I did was read this bit, and now I seem to know all about it. So
Mhm. I love it. I love it. So all that could be found on your website, so they can
yep.
find all those things. And are your books available like on Amazon or other bookstores and so forth?
They're available everywhere. So wherever books are sold, you can find them. And the transformation experience, you'll have to come into trevorgblake.com and learn a bit first because it's not for everybody. Not everybody's disciplined enough to say I'm going to spend the next 45 days, half an hour a day or an hour a day to change my life. It takes effort. There's work. This is one of the reasons I got into the personal development space is it takes work.
Yes.
It's good to have knowledge and it's good to feel good, but it takes work and
Yes.
discipline. And I've found some of the material that's out there gives the impression that all you have to do is sit in a chair and wait for it to show up. Well, that might happen, but that might take several centuries.
Yeah.
You want it now, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. I want to have fun while I'm still young enough to have fun. So there's tools and techniques we can use to make sure it happens now.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing, Trevor. I thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all this with us. I love how you really correlate business with a scientific based back evidence. You talk about energy and you talk about a bunch of other things and you intertwine it together, and that basically is really resetting your and reprogramming yourself to become a different person with a different way of thinking and operating. And because a lot of times people, they have a lot of talents. It needs to just be tweaked a little bit, the way they think and the way they operate and the way they project things and do things. And when you really have a guidance, like the guidance that you provide in your books and your courses and so forth, it really helps to really mold you into that person that you need to be in order to achieve balanced success.
Yeah, I think of sort of resetting the code. I mean, I'm got a laptop here, and I've lost count of I can't remember what version of the software I'm up to. It's constantly
Mhm.
it's constantly updating, and it does it by itself. It asks my permission, but then does it. But as humans, we often don't do that. We stay as we were.
Yeah.
We're still on Trevor Blake version 1,
Yeah.
and we could be on Trevor Blake version 10.6.2 or whatever this one is right now. I don't something like
Yeah.
that. And so that's all it is finding ways to keep updated, keep reprogramming in a fun way that doesn't become overwhelming. Because one of the issues with self-help is it makes people feel they have to become like a saint. You,
Yeah.
you don't. And how boring would the world be if we were all really, do-gooders? I mean, you want a bit of flaw in you in order to make life interesting. So it's okay to be somebody like me who messes up all the time, so long as I've got the tools and techniques to undo some of that when it harms me and
Right.
to redo it when it's going to help me. That's really it. It's that simple.
No, yes, definitely, 100%. And I think, like when you were just, speaking about that, the first thing that came to my head is that there are so many, people out there that are entrepreneurs that have so much intelligence and wisdom, but they fear change and they are afraid to go to the next level, or they get stuck in one way that worked for them at one time, but now it's not working. And just changing over and redoing things is, in their eyes, they can't even see that option. And like something's holding them back, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that fear of change is a very real fear. I've had it myself. You probably had it too, Stacey, at times. Like, I mean, the first time you ever did a podcast, you probably think, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Who am I to do a podcast? Why am I doing a podcast? I mean, I do the same thing, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So long as you've got a tool or technique to help you get over that roadblock. Because that's all
Yes.
it is. It's a roadblock.
Exactly.
There's a
Yeah.
way. There's a little tool. I got them in the transformation experience. There's a little tool for saying, okay, I feel like I hit a wall right here, and I'm scared of
Hmm.
change, which is very common for people. So there's a tool and technique. It's part of mirror work, which you're probably very familiar with, and I'm sure you've had other guests who come on and talk about doing mirror work. There's ways to do mirror work to get you through that fear of
Yeah.
change. Uh,
Hmm.
remember, energy is resonant, so we can hack that.
Yes.
You can do the grocery store challenge by yourself. You can
Yeah.
talk to yourself. You can look at yourself in the mirror. You can pump yourself up a little bit.
Yes.
That's usually all it takes.
Right. No, that's very true. That's very true. Well, this has been a pleasure, Trevor. I hope you'll come back on the show and we can talk some more and go over some more topics because you were just a wonderful world of wisdom today. And I really love the topics that you touched base on and just how you talk about balance and success and just incorporating just enjoying life and not so much, always focusing on the material things, but really learn how to really enjoy life also. And you can have the materialism, but if you don't have, happiness and you don't have the other components that we need in life, then, you're hustling, like you said. You're not living that fulfilling life that we were meant to live.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, if it's not fun, why keep doing it? You're
Exactly.
supposed to be having
Exactly.
fun. I mean, you have an amazing smile. You're having fun. I can tell, right? I have a smile like I'm having fun.
Right.
So thank you. I appreciate it. I've loved being on, and thanks for the great questions too.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, you have a great day, Trevor, and I thank you so much for being on the show. You were just a ball of fun and ball of knowledge as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.